Somewhere in America right now, someone is pulling a gun out of their grandfather's closet, looking at it for 30 seconds, and deciding it is worth whatever the pawn shop down the street offers them. That decision is going to cost them anywhere from $5,000 to $50,000, and they will never know it. The guns on this list are not rare museum pieces locked behind velvet ropes. They are sitting in safes, in closets, in estate sales, and in gun shows right now, quietly crossing the threshold into fortune territory. 2026 is the year the window starts closing on every single one of them. Do not be the person who sells before they watch this. Number 10, the Ruger No. 1 Tropical, pre-1980 production. Here is something that will surprise you. The single-shot rifle is having a moment. Not because anything changed about the gun, because everything changed about the market around it. Bill Ruger introduced the No. 1 in 1967. It was a falling block single-shot rifle built on a design philosophy that had not been fashionable since the 1880s. In an era when semi-automatic everything was the direction the industry was moving, Ruger went backward. He went backward deliberately and brilliantly. The No. 1 was not a throwback. It was a statement, a precisely engineered, hand-fitted, elegant statement that a single well-placed shot from a properly built rifle was worth more than a magazine full of mediocre ones. The tropical variant is the one that matters most to collectors right now. Chambered in the heaviest dangerous game cartridges, the .458 Winchester Magnum, the .416 Rigby, the .405 Winchester, the Tropical was built for the kind of hunting that requires both absolute reliability and absolute power. The barrel is heavier, the stock is straighter. The quarter rib and express sights are fitted to a standard that Ruger's production line in the pre-1980 era executed with a care that later production quietly walked away from. Here's the detail that most owners miss. Pre-1980 examples used a specific hand-fitted receiver-to-stock bedding process that produced a mechanical marriage between wood and metal that later rifles simply do not have. You can feel it when you pick one up. There is no movement, no play, no gap. The gun feels like one piece because it essentially is. Total production of the tropical variant across all years was never large. Pre-1980 examples in dangerous game calibers with original wood and unaltered finish represent a pool of available guns that is shrinking every single year as collectors pull them off the market permanently. 10 years ago, a pre-1980 Ruger No. 1 Tropical and .458 Winchester was a $600 to $900 gun. Today, clean original examples are moving at $1,500 to $2,800. The trajectory is early and it is consistent. This is the gun on this list with the most room to run. Number 9, the Smith & Wesson Model 19 Combat Magnum, pre-lock 4-screw frame. Bill Jordan was a United States Border Patrol legend, a combat veteran, and one of the finest pistol shots in American history. When Smith & Wesson asked him what the perfect duty revolver looked like, he told them. The result was the Model 19. Introduced in 1955, the Model 19 took Smith & Wesson's medium K-frame, the same frame used on the beloved Model 10, and chambered it for the .357 Magnum. What Jordan understood and what Smith & Wesson delivered was a revolver light enough to carry all day and powerful enough to end any confrontation immediately. The FBI adopted it. State police departments across the country adopted it. For nearly 3 decades, the Model 19 was the definitive American law enforcement sidearm, not because it was cheap, because it was the best. Now here is where collectors need to pay attention. The earliest Model 19s used 4 screws to secure the side plate. 1 in front of the trigger guard, 1 behind, 1 above the trigger, 1 at the rear. Each subsequent production change simplified this. The 4-screw frame is the earliest, most mechanically pure expression of the design. Then in 2001, Smith & Wesson added the internal lock, a small key-operated safety mechanism built into the hammer. For serious collectors and serious shooters, that was the moment the Model 19 crossed from a service revolver into a collector artifact. Pre-lock examples, especially 4-screw frames in original nickel or bright blue finish, immediately pulled away from the market. A pre-lock Model 19 in excellent original condition was a $400 gun 15 years ago. Clean 4-screw examples are now bringing $800 to $1,500. Nickel finish 4-screw frames in the original wood presentation cases are pushing $2,000 and higher. The 4-screw window is narrow. The guns are old enough now that condition matters enormously, and the ones in genuinely excellent original condition are getting harder to find by the month. If you have one, you have the gun that defined American law enforcement for a generation. Do not sell it, do not polish it, and do not, under any circumstances, let anyone talk you into refinishing that original blue. Number 8. The Winchester Model 1897 trench gun. In 1917, the German government filed a formal diplomatic protest with the United States military. They wanted the Winchester Model 1897 trench gun banned from the battlefield. They called it inhumane. Let that settle for a moment. A nation that was deploying poison gas across the Western Front looked at the Winchester Model 1897 pump shotgun and decided it had crossed a line. The protest was rejected. American soldiers kept their trench guns, and those guns went on to serve in every major American conflict from the Spanish-American War through Korea. The trench configuration is what makes this gun historically extraordinary. A 20-inch barrel with a ventilated steel heat shield above it so soldiers could grab the barrel without burning their hands. A bayonet lug at the muzzle so the shotgun could function as a spear when the ammunition ran out, and an exposed hammer action with no trigger disconnector, meaning a soldier could hold the trigger down and pump the action as fast as his hands could move. 6 rounds of double-aught buckshot as fast as a man could cycle a pump action. In a trench, at arm's reach, against a line of advancing infantry, there was nothing like it on Earth. The 1897 used a solid steel receiver milled from billet. No stampings, no shortcuts. The entire gun was machined to tolerances that Winchester's 1964 cost-cutting ended permanently. Here is where the collector market stands in 2026. Standard field-grade 1897s have been climbing for years. But the military-marked trench gun variants, those with the correct heat shield, bayonet lug, and documented military proof markings, are entering a completely different conversation. A genuine military-marked trench gun in matching original configuration was a $1,500 gun a decade ago. Today, verified examples with correct markings are bringing $4,000 to $8,000 depending on condition and documentation. World War I dated examples with unit markings climb higher still. The supply of genuine military contract trench guns is permanently and irreversibly fixed. Winchester is not making more. The military is not releasing more. Every year, more examples are lost to neglect, improper cleaning, or estates that have no idea what they are holding. The ones that survive in original condition are becoming genuinely scarce, and scarce in the collector market has only one direction to travel. Number 7. The Colt Detective Special. First issue. Pre-1947 production. Raymond Chandler put one in Philip Marlowe's hand. Humphrey Bogart carried one on screen. Every plainclothes detective in mid-century American fiction had one in a shoulder holster and a cigarette in the other hand. But the Detective Special is not on this list because of movies. It is on this list because of what Colt built before 1947 and how few of them survive today in original, unaltered condition. Colt introduced the Detective Special in 1927. It was the world's first short-barreled, large-frame revolver chambered for a full-power cartridge, the .38 Special. The 2-inch barrel made it concealable. The large frame made it shootable. The combination was so correct that it defined the snub-nose revolver category for the next 5 decades. The first issue Detective Special, produced from 1927 through 1946, is mechanically distinct from every subsequent version. The frame dimensions are slightly different. The cylinder release is an earlier design. The grips on original examples are a specific checkered walnut that Colt never quite replicated after the war. The bluing on pre-war Colt production has a depth and richness that collectors describe as almost purple in certain light. It is not an accident. It is the result of a polishing and bluing process that Colt's pre-war craftsmen executed at a standard the post-war factory never fully returned to. Here is the market reality. First issue detective specials in original condition with unaltered finish were $300 to $600 guns a decade ago. Clean, original, unaltered examples are now moving at $1,200 to $2,200. Find one in the original box with the factory hang tag and the paperwork, and you are looking at $3,000 or more. The pre-war examples with documented law enforcement provenance, department stamps, issue numbers, carry marks that prove actual service, those are the ones that serious collectors are hunting right now, and they are not finding many. Number 6. The Browning High Power. Pre-1970 Belgian FN production. John Moses Browning died in 1926 at his workbench at the Fabrique Nationale factory in Liege, Belgium. He was working on a pistol. That pistol, completed after his death by FN designer Dudon Saive, became the Browning High Power. And the argument can be made, and serious firearms historians do make it, that it is the finest semi-automatic pistol design of the 20th century. Here's the technical case. The High Power was the first production semi-automatic pistol to use a staggered column double-stack magazine holding 13 rounds of 9mm at a time when most competing pistols held 7 or 8. The locked breech tilting barrel system it used became the mechanical foundation for virtually every modern semi-automatic pistol in production today, including the Glock. Browning, in 1926, designed the operating principle that runs the gun in your holster right now. Think about that. FN produced the High Power in Liege from 1935 onward. The pre-1970 Belgian examples represent the design built closest to its original engineering intent before cost pressures and production scaling changed the tolerances, the fitting, and the finish quality. Pre-war and wartime FN production is the most historically significant. Post-war Belgian production through the 1960s represents the commercial peak of the design, hand-fitted, deep blued, and built to a standard that FN's later cost structures would not allow. A pre-1970 Belgian High Power in original condition was a $400 to $700 pistol a decade ago. Today, clean, original, unmolested examples are bringing $1,200 to $2,000, matching numbers wartime production and pre-war commercial examples push considerably higher. Canada issued the High Power to its military during World War II under a licensing agreement. Documented Canadian military examples are their own collector category with their own premium. FN stopped producing the High Power entirely in 2017. They are gone. What remains is all there will ever be. The supply curve on Belgian High Powers has one direction, and it has been moving that direction for years. Number 5, the Springfield Armory M1A, first generation, pre-1980 production. Springfield Armory, the company, not the government arsenal, began producing the M1A in 1974. It was the civilian, semi-automatic version of the United States military's M14 battle rifle, a gun that had served American soldiers from 1959 onward and continues to serve in designated marksman roles to this day. Most people who own an M1A treat it like a shooter. They put optics on it, change the stock, add rails, and run it hard. And for a shooter, that is perfectly reasonable. The M1A in any configuration is one of the most capable semi-automatic battle rifles ever offered to the American civilian market. But the first generation M1A, built in Springfield Armory's first production years through approximately 1980, is something different. The receivers on early production guns were built to specifications and tolerances that Springfield established when they were still proving the platform. The walnut stocks on first-generation examples are a specific grade and cut that later production standardized away from. The barrel quality, the trigger group fitting, and the overall fit between components on a first-generation M1A is the kind of thing that experienced shooters notice the moment they pick one up and cannot quite put into words. Here is what collectors do know. First-generation M1. A rifles with original walnut stocks, matching components, and unaltered configuration are pulling away from later production in the market. A standard M1A was a $1,000 to $1,200 rifle 15 years ago. Standard production examples today bring $2,000 to $2,800. First-generation walnut-stocked examples in original, unaltered condition are reaching $3,500 to $5,000 among informed buyers. Military specification, national match, first-generation examples push higher still. This is the collector story that is still in its early chapters. Most M1A owners have no idea this distinction exists, that ignorance is your opportunity, and it is closing. Number 4, the Colt Python, 1972 to 1983 production, royal blue, 6-inch barrel. Everyone knows the Python deserves a place on a list like this, but almost nobody talks about the specific production window that matters most, and that lack of knowledge is costing collectors real money. The Colt Python was introduced in 1955. It was built on Colt's I frame, hand-lapped barrels, hand-fitted cylinders, trigger pulls that revolvers twice the price still cannot match. The earliest examples, pre-1969, are the ones most often discussed, and they are extraordinary, but they are also extraordinarily priced. A pre-69 Python in excellent original condition already commands $2,500 to $4,000 among serious collectors. The window that sophisticated collectors are watching right now is the 1972 to 1983 production era. Here is why. After 1969, Colt began reducing some of the most labor-intensive hand-fitting steps. The guns remained exceptional, but the transition produced a period of mechanical inconsistency. By 1972, the production process had stabilized into what many Python specialists consider the finest consistent trigger work and cylinder fitting in the model's history. Not the earliest guns, the ones made after Colt refined the revised process. By 1983, production pressures and rising costs began introducing the next round of changes. The window between 72 and 83 royal blue finish 6-inch barrel represents a specific combination of refined process and peak execution that Python specialists argue produced the best average trigger pull and tightest average cylinder gap of any production window in the model's history. A Python from this window in excellent original condition with the original box and paperwork was a $1,200 revolver 5 years ago. Today, those same guns are bringing $2,200 to $3,500. Mint examples with full original documentation are pushing $4,000. And when Colt reintroduced the Python in 2020, collectors who examined the new production closely confirmed what the market already knew. The new Python, while good, is not that. The reintroduction proved the irreplaceability of the original exactly as it did for the pre-1969 examples a generation earlier. Number 3, the Winchester Model 1894, Deluxe Takedown, pre-1916 production. You have heard about the pre-1964 Winchester Model 1894 on every collector list ever written. Clean pre-1964 examples are climbing, and they deserve to be. But there is a version of this story that almost nobody is telling, and it involves a specific configuration that is disappearing from the market so quietly that most collectors will not notice until it is gone. The Deluxe Takedown. Winchester offered a takedown variant of the Model 1894 from the earliest years of production. The takedown mechanism allowed the rifle to be separated into 2 pieces at the receiver for transport and storage, then reassembled to perfect zero without adjustment. It was an engineering achievement that Winchester's craftsmen executed with a precision that makes a correctly fitted original takedown feel like a demonstration of mechanical artistry. The deluxe configuration added hand-selected walnut with genuine checkering, a pistol grip, and a level of finishing that Winchester's standard production line did not approach. These were not catalog rifles ordered from a hardware store. They were special order guns built for men who demanded the finest American lever-action rifle that money could buy in 1908 or 1912 or 1915. Pre-1916 production matters specifically because Winchester's wartime production demands beginning in 1917 began compressing the time available for the hand-fitting and finishing work that defined the Deluxe Takedown's character. The pre-war examples represent the design and the craftsmanship at their absolute peak. Here is the market reality. A standard pre-1964 model 1894 brings $700 to $1,500 in honest condition. A pre-1964 deluxe in excellent condition brings $3,000 to $6,000. A pre-1916 deluxe takedown in genuinely excellent original condition with matching wood and metal and correct configuration is a $5,000 to $12,000 rifle, and that number is moving upward every year as institutional collectors and serious Winchester specialists pull them off the market permanently. Theodore Roosevelt's era considered this rifle the pinnacle of American lever-action craftsmanship. In 2026, the market is catching up to that assessment. The window to acquire one at a reasonable price is closing. The window to hold one you already own is permanent. Never let it go. Number 2, the Walther P38, Wehrmacht issued, matching numbers 1940 to 1942 production. There is a specific conversation happening right now in the German militaria and antique firearms collecting world. And if you are not inside that conversation, you are missing one of the fastest moving value stories in the entire collector market. The Walther P38 replaced the Luger P08 as the standard sidearm of the German military in 1938. Where the Luger was a mechanical marvel of complexity and precision, the P38 was an engineering achievement of a different kind. It was the first military service pistol to combine a double-action trigger, a loaded chamber indicator, and a decocking safety in a single, reliable, field-maintainable package. Every modern double-action semi-automatic pistol in the world today traces its fundamental operating concept directly to what Walther built in 1938. But the specific production window that collectors are watching is narrow, and it is defined by 3 factors. First, the 1940 to 1942 production years represent peak Walther manufacturing quality before wartime material shortages and accelerated production schedules began visibly degrading the fit and finish of P38 production. The bluing on early war examples has a depth that mid and late war production does not approach. The machining is tighter. The components are fitted with a care that disappears from the record as the war demands accelerated. Second, matching numbers. The P38 was a military service pistol, meaning components were repaired, replaced, and redistributed throughout its service life. A genuine all-matching example, where the frame, slide, barrel, and magazine all carry the same serial number suffix, is a fundamentally different collector object than a correct but mismatched gun. The price difference is not incremental, it is categorical. Third, Wehrmacht acceptance stamps. The specific eagle-proof marks and inspector stamps on documented Wehrmacht issue examples provide a chain of historical accountability that cannot be added after the fact. Either the gun left a German military armory with those stamps, or it did not. A correct but mismatched P38 from the 1940 to 1942 window was a $400 to $600 pistol 10 years ago. All matching examples with clear acceptance stamps and period holster and documentation were $1,200 to $1,800. Today, those all matching early war examples are bringing $2,500 to $4,500 among specialized collectors. The supply of genuinely documented all matching early war P38s is not growing. It is contracting. And the collectors who understand exactly what they're looking at are buying every clean example they can find. Number 1, the Colt Single Action Army. Second generation, pre-1978 production. I know what you are thinking. The Single Action Army. Of course, every list, every auction recap, every collector show, you have seen it 1,000 times. And that familiarity is exactly why most people are looking at the wrong guns. Everyone chases the first generation Colts, pre-1898 antique classification, black powder frames, extraordinary guns, also 40 years deep into serious collector recognition, which means the prices already reflect everything the market knows. There is no discovery left in the first generation. The second generation is the story 2026 is about to tell. Colt reintroduced the Single Action Army in 1956 and ran second generation production through 1978. These guns were built before Colt's financial difficulties degraded manufacturing consistency. The hand fitting, The cylinder timing, the 3-click hammer sequence executed on equipment Colt's craftsmen knew completely. That production window represents the design in its most refined modern expression, and sophisticated collectors have been quietly accumulating the right examples for a decade. 10 years ago, a clean second generation in .45 Colt was an $800 to $1,200 revolver. Today, correct original examples are bringing $1,800 to $3,200. Mint boxed examples are pushing $5,000 and accelerating. The discovery is happening right now. Do not be late. Here's the part of the story that makes 2026 the critical year. The third generation, introduced in 1976, is now 50 years old. Collector attention that has been focused on first-generation antiques and third-generation variations is beginning to shift to the second generation, which has been hiding in plain sight between two more famous production eras. When that institutional collector attention fully arrives, and it is arriving right now, the second generation prices will not adjust gradually. They will move the way all collector firearms move when the market finally recognizes what was sitting in front of it the whole time. Fast and without looking back. The Colt Single Action Army is the gun that has defined American firearms identity for 150 years. The second generation, pre-1978, is the chapter of that story that 2026 is about to discover. If you have one in your safe, you are holding the right gun at exactly the right moment. Do not sell it. Not this year, not next year, not until you fully understand what you are holding. And if you understand this list, you already do. Here are the 4 rules every serious collector follows without exception. Rule 1, never refinish. Not the wood, not the metal. The original patina on any gun on this list is not wear. It is provenance. It is history. It is value. The moment you sand a stock or re-blue a barrel, you can erase 60% of what that gun is worth. Put the sandpaper down and walk away. Rule 2, keep every piece of paper. Original boxes, factory hang tags, sales receipts, old photographs of the gun, your grandfather's letters, military documentation, anything that tells the story of where that gun has been. Paper doubles value. Paper proves history. Paper is everything in the collector market. Rule 3, get a factory letter. For Colts, Winchester, and Smith & Wesson, factory letters from the relevant historical societies verify original configuration, ship date, and destination. A factory letter alone can add thousands of dollars to an appraisal. Get one before you do anything else. Rule 4, never modify. Every aftermarket part, every replaced grip, every modern scope, mount destroys collector value permanently. If you want a shooter, buy a modern gun. If you have one of these, leave it exactly as it left the factory. Stay smart, stay patient. The best investment decision in the firearms world is always the same one. Never sell.